heist music!
It's some kind of monster.
Wait, that's not a monster. That's a man wearing shoulder pads. There's only one supervillain whose fashion sense is quite that dated. Balthazar Blatt. I want every agent on the scene immediately.
Get ready!
Get ready for... Hello, Gru. Ha ha!
Oh, what about that? What? Oh, corals.
Oh.
Dance fight.
This is not over.
Aloha! This is Trinidad, your island man, coming to you live once again from beautiful Oahu, here at Ala Moana Beach Park on the island of Oahu here in Hawaii. Yes, Trinidad, the island man, your island man, giving you my review of Despicable Me 3. Remember our rating scale? Shaka thumbs up. It's good to see. I recommend it. Shaka thumbs down. It's junk. I don't recommend it. Don't see it. All right. And for Despicable Me, I give it a strong shaka thumbs up. It was very funny. Let me just say that I had only seen the first one and Minions. I did not see part 2 at all. But, you know, the beautiful thing about this movie is that it starts off and it's very non-complicated. You know, if you've seen the first one and you're familiar with it, and Minions did help slightly, as the Minions are in it, and I do feel that the end of Minions, where you see Gru as a child meeting the Minions, and that's, you know, where they develop their friendship and they begin to follow him as a supervillain. That's definitely very good, I think, and adds a lot to this storyline for part 3. So apparently, I guess, from what I can surmise from part 3, is that Gru basically leaves his life of crime to marry this woman who is on the side of good, a good secret agent, and basically goes ahead and begins to work with her for the James Bond-like secret agency to defeat supervillains. So, there you have it. That's the plot. The children, you know, the 3 daughters that Gru had adopted from the first movie are still there. They're still quite funny. There's some side stories with them. You know, that's definitely more of the kids' part of it. But I think what adults and myself had really liked and will like is that Gru, in addition to, you know, the push and pull with his relationship, you know, with the woman that he's married to, Lucy. Well, the major part of the story involves Gru's long-lost brother, Dru, his twin brother, who just happens to look exactly like him, except that he is blonde and still has all his hair. Whereas Gru, I guess, had black hair way back in the beginning, as you had seen in Minions when he was a little child. So essentially, at first, you know, it seems that the two are quite opposites, and that's where the tension and the humor is going to come from, them playing off each other. You know, he's, you know, seems to be a dimwit, numbskull. You know, Gru is very smart, of course. very non-nonsense, except when it comes to his daughters. That's where he draws, the exception. But we find out that actually Drew, just like his brother, is into supervillainry, and actually he was told by his father, who had raised him, whereas Gru was raised by his mother, that he was no good at it. And we do see that due to his silliness and his bumbling around, he definitely does not have the natural knack that Gru does have for villainry. And so he wants Gru to teach him, and so the two team up. But since Gru has changed his ways, what they do is they plan a heist against a supervillain that they had, that he and his wife had come across earlier in the movie, that has stumped them at every turn. And through the bonds of brotherhood, they are able to defeat him. So yes, it turns out to be a wonderful movie. It stars Steve Carell, Kristen Wiig, and Trey Parker as the main bad guy. Steve Carell plays dual parts as Gru and Drew, and his comic timing with himself is quite fabulous and funny. Trey Parker as Balthazar Bratz is extremely funny in this. He's a child actor, grown to adult, turned bad, because as like many child actors, they turn bad when, they get into a lot of trouble as they grow up in their adolescence and adulthood and fade from fame, and so he turned to villainry. So that's where we find him, and he's definitely stuck in the 80s, so very much so this soundtrack includes all the 80s, great songs from Michael Jackson to, Phil Collins, to Madonna. It almost rivals Baby Driver as far as the wonderful soundtrack and music. And there's plenty of 80s references that'll keep the adults for their kids interested. Like I said, there is a side plot, so younger children will relate with Gru's daughters as they go on their own adventure, and the adults will be able to laugh and giggle very much as I did with Gru and his brother Drew, their chemistry and their teamwork against Balthazar Bratz. All right, so again, strong shocker thumbs up for Despicable Me 3. When it opened up 2 weeks ago, it was the #1 box office winner for the weekend with about 77 million. Now again, this is the third installment. I'm not sure if they're going to do any more. They are planning on Minions Part 2 sometime in 2020, I heard. But if they want to continue Despicable Me, where it might have ran out of steam with, maybe Gru and his wife becoming good guys, here, most of the Minions run off with Drew because, as we saw in Minions, they do favor villainry for some reason. And so they go to follow him, who he decides to become a full-time, full-fledged supervillain in himself. And so that's where they could reinvigorate the storyline and have Gru and his wife come back to thwart his plans, or possibly even help him, depending on the circumstance. So yes, again, this is Trinidad, the Island Man, your Island Man, live once again from beautiful Hawaii here at Ala Moana Park on the island of Oahu, saying strong shaka thumbs up for Despicable Me 3. Definitely check it out on Tuesdays for $6 over at Regal, or even $7 at Consolidated on Tuesdays. Would be good. Your children will love this movie, and you definitely won't be bored with it either. All right, thank you so much, and aloha.